Bruno Guimarães. I swear, I've talked about him so much on the past few football frenzies because he's being linked with a move away from Newcastle. It seems like almost the entire second half of the season. And they're saying that PSG are ready to go into a transfer battle with Man City and Arsenal to win his signature. Now, I know I've had some Newcastle fans come in my comment section before and tell me that I'm clueless and that they don't have to sell anybody because they're going to be just fine and whatnot. Yeah, that was before the season ended. But now that Man United won the FA Cup, you guys are not going to be in European football next season. So what's going to keep Bruno Guimarães at the club? What's going to keep Alexander Isak at the club? They've been there like 2 or 3 seasons now, and nothing's really been happening. I know that you guys are owned by the Saudis or the Qataris. I always confuse it. But point is, you guys are an oil club. You're loaded. But when are these owners going to actually start to make some moves? Yeah, you've added some pieces, right? Obviously, Bruno, Alexander Isak. You guys signed Sandro Tonali. He got suspended for gambling. So, yes, there has been some good signings. And Eddie Howe looks like a good manager. But these players are not going to just sit around and wait for the board to get it right, for the board to start spending money and bringing in bigger name players. Why would Bruno say no to an Arsenal? Why would he say no to a Man City or a PSG? And the deal is going to be expensive because I remember before I read that Bruno Guimarães has a release clause in his contract of 100 million. So they're going to get their money back, right? Because they didn't pay that much for him. They're going to make profit from him. But Bruno is a very important player for Newcastle. And they're not going to want to lose him. But I think they are in trouble of losing Isak and Bruno Guimarães. On top of that, with them not securing European football next season, isn't that going to affect something that they have to do with financial fair play? Because I remember I saw reports that Alexander Isak's wage is going to have to be lowered if they don't qualify for Europe. So I'd assume that the same thing's going to happen to the rest of their squad. But Newcastle, it's just been a bit weird, right? Like last season, you guys were cooking, finished top 4. This season was in the Champions League. You guys ended up getting knocked out. The first half of your season was pretty poor for what the expectations were. And then the second half, you ended it strong. You came in 7th. You ended up being in the Europa Conference League. And then Man United winning that FA Cup means that even though United finished 8th and you guys were above them, that FA Cup put them in the Europa League. And then because they now got put in the Europa League, Chelsea got dropped to the Conference League, which knocks out Newcastle. So they're in a pretty weird predicament here. I don't know if Eddie Howe is the man for the job. I think that he's done a decent job since he's been there. But maybe they need to go out there and get a Jose Mourinho, get a Thomas Tuchel, get a manager that has a very good CV, that's won multiple trophies, that players would want to play for. Maybe you could go get De Zerbi. Who knows? He's a free agent at the time of me recording this video. But out of these 3 teams, I think Arsenal need him the most. But I think they have the smallest chance of getting him compared to a PSG or Man City. I think PSG would be the team that I'd have to give the nod to because they're going to be losing Mbappe this summer and they're going to spend a lot of money to try to make their fans happy for losing out on one of the best players in the world for free. And they also do need a midfielder. And if you're Newcastle, I'm sure that you'd rather sell him out of the league. Like, why would you want to sell him to Man City or Arsenal? So, yeah, I think Newcastle, PSG, they have the money to spend, and their midfield's not that good. Aside from Warren Zaire-Emery, I'm not impressed. If you take Mbappe out of that team, their midfield and attack looks like it could be a side that's put out by Wolverhampton. It's not impressive. So they need to retool. And they need to try and build a solid all-around team, right? Bruno Guimarães is not a star player. He's a very good player, but he's not world-class. Not just yet. 26 years old, maybe he can reach that level. But I don't think he's that far off. I think depending, just if he gets put on a bigger platform, and if he performs in the Champions League, if he could win more trophies and, be a pivotal part in a winning team, then yeah, you could call him world-class. But PSG needs to rethink how they do business, right? They tried it with the stars. You had your Messi's, your Neymar, Mbappe. That era didn't work. And now they're going to be entering into a new era of maybe they need to go with younger players, right? Maybe they need a guy like Bruno Guimarães to captain their midfield or to be that anchor behind their other midfielders doing the dirty work. I think Man City, they need him a lot as well. Him next to Rodri, that's the best fit in my opinion. Like if I'm Bruno Guimarães, I'd want to go to Man City out of these three teams. Him next to Rodri would be insane. Letting KDB not have to worry about doing any dirty work because Kevin De Bruyne doesn't do that anyways. On top of that, you lost Gundo. More than likely, Bernardo Silva may leave this summer as well. And last season, you replaced Gundo with Kovacic, who's mid, and Matthias Nunes, who hasn't even played this season, really. They just bought him to replace Calvin Phillips' role. He's just touring every stadium because he's not getting on the pitch. So City do need to strengthen. Like, that's the area of need for them is center mid. And a guy like Bruno and Rodri could be one of the best pivots in the world. And I do think City are going to spend money this summer because this season, they were on for a treble, got knocked out the Champions League by Real Madrid, okay? Then they won the Premier League. Then they had to play the FA Cup versus one of the worst Man United sides that we've seen in a very long time, or maybe even ever. And they got cooked against Man United. This was one of the weakest City teams that I've seen Pep Guardiola have since he's been here. And I think that they're going to go out there this summer and strengthen. They already got Savio coming in. He looks like a baller. He's cold. Have you guys been watching Girona this season? He's been cooking. And yeah, they're going to be strengthened. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, City, they're weaker, and, that means teams can catch up. Whoa. What makes you think that City are not going to just go out there this summer and spend money? They will. I thought they were going to possibly sign Lucas Paqueta and Bruno Guimarães. But I don't know about Paqueta anymore with all these betting allegations that's popping up. They're saying that this guy may be banned for like 10 or 50 or 20 years for what he's being charged with. So, it's looking a bit slow for him. But Bruno Guimarães is a player that I definitely think they will be in for. And with him only having a release clause of $100 million, that actually, if I'm being honest, changes up my way of thinking. See, like when you're talking and when you're thinking about things as you're going, you can change your mind. I actually think that City are the favorites to sign him. I've said this in multiple videos before. But because he has a release clause, this means that the clubs don't have to negotiate. City just have to pay that. And then they can just negotiate with the player and the move can happen. I said PSG are more likely to get him because Newcastle wouldn't want to sell to a Prem team. But I forgot that Newcastle don't really have a choice. They don't. So, I think City are the favorites. And then I think as far as Arsenal are concerned, I can't see them spending $100 million on another midfielder. They broke the bank last season for Declan Rice. They spent over $100 million to sign him. Do they go back-to-back seasons spending $100 million on holding midfielders? I don't know. I think they need him. I think it'd be a great signing. And I think he would do really nice in a double pivot with Rice. And then you could have Martin Odegaard ahead of them in that 10 role. Yeah, I think it works. And this is a position that they need. But I just don't know if they're going to be dropping that much money back-to-back summers on a center mid. I think the marquee signing for Arsenal this summer will be a striker. And then I think that they will address their midfield position, but I just don't think they're going to spend $100 million on that. But who knows? I could be wrong. Point is, all three of these teams need him. Bruno Guimarães is a very good player. I'm excited to watch him in Copa America. I'm pretty sure he got called up for the Brazil squad. So, we will be here with the watch-alongs, and, we'll assess him a little bit more. But, yeah, man, these teams, they need him for sure. And PSG have been linked to him the most out of all these clubs. I mean, he was getting linked to PSG back in, December. And then that news kind of cooled off. Then Arsenal and Man City's interest kind of picked up. And now it looks like PSG are back. And as I said, their midfield is mid. Like, PSG have spent so much money. And when I look at that squad, I'm really not that impressed. I'm actually underwhelmed because I'm like, damn, all this money. And this is what you have to show for it. And if I'm being honest, I think PSG have been failing for years. Who's that guy that runs the club? Kelfani or something like that? He needs to be sacked. I think that he's been there long enough. and they have not gotten a Champions League yet. Let somebody else come in and, take over the footballing side of things, because maybe some better results can come, because that PSG squad is just not that impressive. But let me know what club you think Bruno Guimarães should go to, or do you think he'll stay at Newcastle? I think it's going to be hard to convince him with you guys not having any European football. This guy plays for Brazil. He's going to be at the Copa America surrounded by ballers. He's going to be playing with Rodrigo, Vinicius, Savio, Endrick, Marquinhos. Who else? Allison, Ederson. Like, all these players that are playing for these big clubs. And they're going to be in his ear like, yo, bro, what you doing at Newcastle, man? You know it's dead over there. You guys came 7th. Y'all ain't making no noise. Eddie Howe's your manager. Like, come on. You want to waste your career there? You're 26 years old. When are you going to make that big move? So, look, I think people don't really factor in these players having friends that are their teammates, like internationally, or just, players that they talk to, that they're cool with, that they just play against, right? Like, come on. These guys are all in group chats, and they all have banter. So I know for a fact that a lot of people are going to be in Bruno Guimarães' air this summer. But yeah, I think Man City would make the most sense. If I'm him, that's where I'd want to go.